Your bank account is lying to you right now. Not about the number. That's real enough. It's lying about what's possible tomorrow. Sarah learned this on a Tuesday morning. Coffee cold. Bills stacking up. $300 to her name. She opened her banking app expecting disaster. Found $2,800 instead. 3 deposits she never chased. A client paid early without asking. A forgotten project bonus appeared. A refund she'd written off months ago. 3rd month in a row this happened. Money showing up from nowhere. The only thing she changed? She stopped hunting it. Here's the part that'll make you angry. The hardest workers you know are broke. The hustlers grinding 17-hour days. Struggling. The people at every networking event, pitching desperately. Still chasing. You've seen them. Maybe you are them, working yourself ragged while watching others coast into wealth. So what if everything you believed about making money is backward? What if desperation is the thing pushing money away? What if your anxiety about bills is creating more bills? What if the reason you can't get ahead has nothing to do with your work ethic and everything to do with a frequency you're broadcasting that you can't even see? There's a type of person money hunts down. They mention needing something and help appears. They start a side project and it funds itself. They get offered opportunities they never applied for. You've noticed them. Maybe resented them. Assumed they had connections or luck you don't have. But here's what nobody told you. The difference isn't what they do. It's who they are. It's the signal they send. The energy they carry. Their magnetic field. And you can become that person. Not through more hustle. Not through better strategies. Through a frequency shift that makes you visible to money that's already trying to reach you. This isn't manifestation. This isn't wishful thinking. This is about removing the invisible force field that's been repelling wealth your entire life. Magnetic wealth isn't about manifesting checks from the universe while you sit on your couch visualizing dollar signs. It's not woo-woo nonsense, and it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's about becoming the type of person that money, opportunities, and resources naturally flow toward. It's about removing the invisible force field of scarcity and desperation that's been repelling the very thing you've been chasing. It's about understanding that wealth operates on principles that have nothing to do with how hard you work, and everything to do with how aligned you become. Over the next few hours, you're going to walk away with a complete system. Not theory, not philosophy. A practical, step-by-step process to rewire your relationship with money in 30 days. You're going to learn why your current approach has been sabotaging you. You're going to identify the specific beliefs and behaviors that have been pushing money away. You're going to install new patterns that make you magnetic. And if you actually implement what you're about to learn, 30 days from now, you're going to have evidence that this works. Not because I said so, but because money will show up in ways you didn't orchestrate. Before we go any further, I need you to understand the central paradox of wealth. The less you chase, the more you attract. This goes against everything you've been taught. You've been told that you need to hustle harder, want it more, outwork everyone else. But here's what's really happening when you chase money with that desperate energy. You're broadcasting a signal that says you don't have it. You're confirming your own lack every single time you grasp. And the universe, the market, other people, they all receive that signal loud and clear. They respond by giving you more situations that confirm you're right. But when you become magnetic, when you shift into a state of knowing that money flows to you, something remarkable happens. You stop repelling it. You become visible to opportunities that were always there but couldn't reach you through your wall of scarcity. You start showing up differently in rooms, in conversations, in negotiations. And money starts showing up differently in your life. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth about why you're not where you want to be financially. It's not because you're lazy. It's not because you don't work hard enough. It's not even because you haven't found the right strategy or business model. It's because you're trapped in what I call the scarcity trap. And every single thing you do from inside that trap makes the trap stronger. The scarcity trap is a self-reinforcing cycle that feels like reality but is actually just a frequency you're stuck on. Here's how it works. You notice you don't have enough money. That observation creates anxiety. The anxiety makes you grasp and push and force. The grasping creates desperate energy. Desperate energy repels opportunities and attracts only other desperate people. This confirms your original observation that there isn't enough, and the cycle tightens. You can see this play out everywhere once you know what to look for. The salesperson who needs the commission so badly that customers can smell it and suddenly aren't interested. The entrepreneur who's so eager to get clients that they undercharge, overdeliver, and burn out while staying broke. The employee who's so afraid of being fired that they become invisible and get passed over for every promotion. The investor who's so scared of losing that they make emotional decisions and lose anyway. In every case, It's not the circumstance that's creating the poverty. It's the frequency, the energy, the magnetism or lack thereof. And here's the part that's going to sting a little. You've been doing this to yourself. Not consciously, not maliciously, but you've been the one creating the very repulsion field that keeps money away. Every time you check your bank account with dread, you reinforce the pattern. Every time you say you can't afford something with that particular tone of defeat, you strengthen the signal. Every time you resent someone else's success instead of celebrating it, you build the wall higher. Every time you make a financial decision from fear instead of alignment, you train yourself deeper into scarcity. I can already hear the objection forming in your mind. But I really don't have enough money. That's not just energy, that's reality. I hear you. And yes, your bank account shows what it shows. Your bills are what they are. But here's the question that changes everything. Is your current reality proof that you'll always be in scarcity? Or is it simply evidence of the frequency you've been operating on up until this moment? Because if you can acknowledge that your past frequency created your current reality, then you can also accept that changing your frequency will create a different reality moving forward. This isn't about denying your current situation. It's about refusing to let your current situation determine your future frequency. There's a massive difference. Let me show you what I mean with a real situation. Marcus had been a graphic designer for 8 years, talented enough to have a decent portfolio, but somehow always struggling to make ends meet. He'd raised his rates 3 times, but every time he did, clients would push back or disappear entirely. He found himself constantly offering discounts, doing free revisions, throwing in extra work just to keep people happy. He told himself he was being customer-focused and building relationships, but really he was terrified. Terrified that if he held firm on his value, people would leave. Terrified that there weren't enough good clients to go around. Terrified that he wasn't actually worth what he wanted to charge. One Tuesday afternoon, he had a consultation call with a potential client. A startup founder, energetic and demanding, the type who'd historically talked him into lowering his rates. The founder laid out the project, a complete brand identity package. Then came the moment Marcus usually dreaded. So what's this going to cost me? Marcus felt the familiar tightness in his chest, the urge to throw out a number lower than his rate card just to make sure he got the job. But something in him shifted. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe it was finally hitting rock bottom, but instead of his usual anxiety, he felt something else. Calm, clarity, a quiet knowing that if this person wasn't right, someone else would be. He named his full rate without apology, without justification, without the desperate edge he usually carried. The number hung in the air. The founder didn't flinch. Okay, when can you start? That simple, that easy. And Marcus realized something profound in that moment. It had never been about the number. It had been about the frequency he brought to the conversation. The desperation, the apology in his voice, the unspoken belief that he wasn't worth it. The moment he stopped carrying that energy, the resistance disappeared. That's what magnetic wealth looks like in practice. It's not about affirmations or vision boards, though those can support the process. It's about embodying a frequency that says, I'm valuable, money flows to me, and I don't need to convince you of that. When you operate from that place, negotiations change, opportunities change, outcomes change. Now, before we go deeper, I want you to pause with me for just a moment. If you're listening while driving or working, that's fine. Just let this wash over you. But if you can, if you're in a space where you can actually focus, I want you to feel what I'm about to describe. Close your eyes if it's safe to do so, or just soften your gaze. Take a breath in through your nose, deeper than your normal breath, filling your belly first, then your chest. Hold it for a moment at the top. Then release it slowly through your mouth, letting your shoulders drop as the air leaves. Now let's talk about what magnetic wealth actually means at the identity level, because this isn't about changing what you do before you change who you are. Most people approach wealth building backward. They look for the tactics, the strategies, the step-by-step blueprints. They want to know exactly what to do to make more money. And then they wonder why the tactics that work for other people don't work for them. Here's why. Because tactics flow from identity, not the other way around. The same action taken by 2 different people produces 2 different results, because the frequency behind the action is different. A person who identifies as someone who struggles with money can follow the exact same business plan as someone who identifies as someone money flows to, and they'll get completely different outcomes. The strategy isn't the variable, the identity is. So who are you in relationship to money right now? Not who do you want to be, not who you think you should be. Who are you actually being? Do you identify as someone who has to fight for every dollar? Do you identify as someone who's bad with money? Do you identify as someone who always has unexpected expenses pop up? Do you identify as someone who can never get ahead? Do you identify as someone who has to sacrifice and struggle to earn? Most people have been carrying a money identity that was installed in childhood, never questioned, never updated, and still running their financial life from the background like malware. And here's the key. Your identity determines what you perceive as possible, what opportunities you notice, what actions you take, how you show up in conversations, what you're willing to receive, and what you unconsciously repel. If your core identity says money is hard, then money will be hard no matter what strategy you try. If your core identity says you're not the type of person who has wealth, then you'll sabotage yourself every time you start to accumulate it. The magnetic money mindset is built on 3 foundational identity shifts. First, I am someone money flows to naturally and easily. Not I want to be, not I'm trying to be, I am, present tense. This isn't a lie you're telling yourself. This is a truth you're growing into by declaring it before you see evidence. Every wealthy person went through a phase where they claimed the identity before the bank account confirmed it. That's not delusion. That's how transformation works. You become it first, then you see it. Second, I create immense value and people love to pay me. This shift moves you out of the transactional, scarcity-based relationship with money where you're trying to extract value from others, and into an abundant relationship where you're so focused on solving real problems that money becomes the natural byproduct. When you identify as a value creator, you stop worrying about whether there's enough to go around because you're generating it. Third, I am worthy of wealth without needing to prove or justify it. This is the deepest work for most people because we've been conditioned to believe we have to earn our worth through suffering, through sacrifice, through being busy and exhausted and martyred. But magnetic wealth requires you to decouple your worthiness from your struggle. You're worthy of abundance because you exist. Full stop. Now be honest with yourself for a moment. Which of those 3 statements made you uncomfortable? Which one felt like a lie when you read it? That discomfort is showing you exactly where your growth edge is. That's the identity shift that's going to change your financial reality most dramatically. You can't skip over it. You can't think your way around it. You have to feel the discomfort of claiming an identity that doesn't match your current evidence, and you have to claim it anyway. Every single day, until the evidence starts to shift. And it will shift. I promise you, it will shift. But you have to go first. You have to become the person who has magnetic wealth before magnetic wealth shows up in your account. Let's go deeper into where these identity blocks came from, because you can't release what you don't understand. Your money story, the narrative you've been living inside of around wealth, didn't start with you. It started generations back. It was written by your parents, your grandparents, your culture, your early experiences, and it's been running on autopilot ever since, creating your financial reality without you even realizing it. Think back to your earliest memory involving money. Maybe it was overhearing your parents fight about bills. Maybe it was being told that you couldn't have something you wanted because money didn't grow on trees. Maybe it was watching a parent work themselves to exhaustion and learning that money requires sacrifice. Maybe it was absorbing the message that rich people are greedy or that wanting money makes you shallow. Whatever it was, that memory installed a belief. And that belief became part of your identity. And that identity has been creating your results ever since. Most people are living out their parents' money story without ever questioning whether it's true or whether it serves them. If your parents struggled financially, you likely absorbed one of 2 beliefs. Either money is hard to get, and I'll probably struggle too, or money is hard to get, and I'm going to make sure I never struggle like they did. Interestingly, both beliefs often create struggle. The first one creates struggle through resignation and repetition of patterns. The second creates struggle through overcompensation, overworking, and inability to enjoy wealth even when you achieve it. If your parents were comfortable financially, you might have absorbed different beliefs. Maybe that money comes easily but only to certain types of people, and you're not sure you're that type. Maybe that having money means you'll lose authenticity or connection. Maybe that wealth requires you to become someone you don't want to be. Either way, wealthy or poor, your parents' relationship with money became your template. And until you consciously rewrite that template, it's going to keep generating the same patterns in your life. Here's what makes this particularly insidious. Your money story doesn't feel like a story. It feels like reality. It feels like just the way things are. If you grew up hearing that money doesn't grow on trees, it doesn't register as a belief. It registers as a fact about how the world works. If you absorb the message that you have to work hard for every penny, that doesn't feel like a choice. It feels like the nature of earning. But these aren't facts. They're interpretations. They're one possible way of relating to money, and they're creating one possible financial reality for you. There are other interpretations. There are other realities, and you get to choose which one you're going to live inside of. So let's do the work of identifying your money story right now. I'm going to ask you some questions, and I want you to notice what answers arise without filtering or editing them. First question, what did you hear about money growing up? Not just the explicit lessons, but the comments, the fights, the offhand remarks. What was the background soundtrack about money in your childhood? Second question, what did you learn about what it takes to make money? Did you learn it was hard, easy, requires connections, requires education, requires luck? Third question, what did you learn about people who have money? Were they admired or resented? Were they seen as smart or lucky? Were they trusted or viewed with suspicion? Fourth question, what did you decide about yourself in relationship to money based on those early experiences? Did you decide you were good with money or bad with it? Did you decide you'd never have to worry about it, or that you'd always struggle? Did you decide that wanting it made you greedy or that having it would make you happy? These questions aren't meant to be answered in your head and then forgotten. Write them down. Journal on them. Let the answers surprise you, because buried in those answers are the invisible programs that have been running your financial life. And once you see them clearly, once you drag them into consciousness, they lose their power over you. You can't change what you can't see, but once you see it, change becomes possible. Let me give you an example of what this excavation process can reveal. Jennifer grew up in a household where money was tight but never discussed. Her parents didn't fight about it, at least not in front of the kids. But there was a constant undercurrent of tension. Certain things were quietly off limits. Vacations didn't happen. New clothes came from discount stores, tags carefully removed before anyone could see. Her mother would sigh in a particular way when bills arrived in the mail, a sound that Jennifer learned to associate with heaviness and resignation. No one ever said they were poor. No one ever complained. But the message Jennifer absorbed was clear. We don't have enough. We're doing the best we can, and wanting more than we have is ungrateful. By the time Jennifer was an adult running her own business, she couldn't figure out why she kept undercharging, why she felt guilty every time she raised her rates, why she'd close a great month financially and then immediately have an unexpected expense that wiped out her profit. It wasn't until she went back and examined her money story that she saw the pattern. She'd internalized the belief that having more than enough was somehow wrong, that financial ease was ungrateful, that struggling was virtuous. So every time she started to get ahead, her subconscious would sabotage it to bring her back to the familiar state of just barely enough. She was recreating her childhood financial reality over and over again, not because she wanted to, but because it was the only script she knew. Now that you're starting to see the invisible architecture that's been shaping your financial reality, let's talk about what happens when you shift your frequency. Because magnetic wealth isn't just a mindset, it's an energetic state that you learn to inhabit consistently. And when you do, your entire experience of money transforms. There's a frequency to scarcity. You know it because you've felt it. It's tight, grasping, anxious, vigilant. It's the feeling of not enough, of needing to control, of watching the numbers obsessively, of feeling behind. When you're in that frequency, everything feels hard. Opportunities don't appear. Conversations don't flow. Negotiations feel like battles. Money comes in slowly and leaves quickly. And there's a frequency to abundance. It's open, easeful, expectant, generous. It's the feeling of more than enough, of trust, of flow, of being supported. When you're in that frequency, things start to shift. Opportunities appear out of nowhere. Conversations lead to unexpected connections. Negotiations feel collaborative. Money shows up from multiple directions. Same person, same talents, same market. Different frequency, different results. Here's what most people don't understand. You can't access abundant results from a scarcity frequency. It's not possible. It's like trying to tune into a radio station at one frequency while broadcasting at another. The signal doesn't match. So if you want magnetic wealth, if you want money to flow to you naturally, you have to become someone who consistently operates at the abundance frequency. Not just when things are going well, not just when you have money in the bank. Consistently, regardless of external circumstances. That's the practice. That's the discipline. That's what separates people who temporarily have money from people who are magnetic to it. So how do you tune into the abundance frequency? It starts with awareness. You have to become conscious of what frequency you're operating on in any given moment, because most people swing back and forth without realizing it. They're in abundance frequency when they're visualizing their goals in the morning, and then they check their bank account and crash into scarcity frequency for the rest of the day. They're in abundance frequency when they're dreaming about possibilities, and then they talk to their skeptical friend and drop into scarcity frequency for the rest of the week. You can't build magnetism if you're constantly oscillating. You have to learn to catch yourself in the downswing and choose to shift back to abundance over and over again until it becomes your default. Here's how you know what frequency you're in. Scarcity frequency feels like contraction. Your chest gets tight. Your breath gets shallow. Your mind races to worst-case scenarios. You feel urgency and anxiety. You want to control and force outcomes. You're focused on what's missing. Abundance frequency feels like expansion. Your chest is open. Your breath is deep. Your mind stays present or imagines positive possibilities. You feel calm and trust. You're willing to allow outcomes to unfold. You're focused on what's present and what's coming. The shift from one to the other isn't complicated, but it does require practice. When you notice you've dropped into scarcity frequency, you don't shame yourself for it. You don't make it mean anything about whether this work is working. You simply notice and you consciously shift. There are dozens of ways to shift your frequency, but I'm going to give you the most reliable ones. Gratitude is a frequency shifter. The moment you authentically connect with something you're grateful for, your frequency rises. Not performative gratitude, where you're listing things you think you should be grateful for. Real gratitude, the kind that makes your eyes water a little because you're so aware of how lucky you are to have this particular thing or person or experience in your life. That kind of gratitude is a portal directly into abundance frequency. Generosity is a frequency shifter. When you give from a place of genuine overflow, even if what you're giving is small, you're proving to yourself that you have more than enough. You're embodying abundance. And what you embody becomes your frequency. Presence is a frequency shifter. Scarcity lives in the future, worrying about what might happen or what might not happen. Abundance lives in the present moment, where you always have what you need right now. When you drop out of your anxious thoughts about tomorrow and into the sensory reality of this moment, your frequency shifts automatically. Celebration is a frequency shifter. When you genuinely celebrate other people's wins, especially people in your field or at the level you're aspiring to, you're training yourself into the belief that there's more than enough success to go around. You're dissolving the competitive scarcity that keeps most people stuck. And decision-making from alignment rather than fear is a frequency shifter. Every time you make a choice based on what feels right rather than what you're afraid will happen if you don't, you strengthen your abundance frequency. Every time you say no to something that's not aligned just because it's money, you prove to yourself that you trust more aligned money is coming. These aren't just feel-good practices. They're frequency training. And the more consistently you train yourself into abundance frequency, the more magnetic you become to wealth. It's not magic, it's physics. You're changing the signal you're broadcasting, and the universe responds by sending you what matches that signal. Let's ground this with a practical scenario, because I want you to see how this plays out in real life. Two real estate agents, both with similar experience, similar markets, similar listings. They're standing in an open house on a Sunday afternoon. The first agent, we'll call her Lisa, is in scarcity frequency. She had a slow month and she's worried about her numbers. She's watching every person who walks through the door with an edge of desperation. When someone shows mild interest, she immediately starts pushing, trying to close them, giving them all the reasons they should buy. She's thinking about her commission. She's thinking about her pipeline. She's thinking about the bills she needs to pay. Her energy is tight. Visitors can feel it even if they can't name it. They leave quickly, promising to think about it. The second agent, we'll call her Rebecca, is in abundance frequency. She also had a slow month, but she decided to trust that the right buyers would show up when they showed up. She's genuinely present with each person who walks through. She asks questions. She listens. She shares information without attachment to whether they buy or not. She's not thinking about her commission. She's thinking about whether this house is right for this person. Her energy is open. Visitors can feel that too. They linger. They ask more questions. They mention they have a friend who's also looking. They take her card and actually follow up. Same house, same day. Different frequencies, different results. And here's the thing. Over the course of a year, Rebecca consistently outsells Lisa. Not because she's a better salesperson, because she's more magnetic. People want to work with her. Referrals come to her. Opportunities find her. She's not chasing. she's attracting. That's what abundance frequency does in practice. It changes how you show up, and how you show up changes what shows up for you. Now I want to pause here and give you another moment to integrate what we've covered so far, because this isn't just information to collect. This is a transmission you need to absorb into your system. If you can, find a comfortable position. Sitting or standing, it doesn't matter. Just let yourself settle. We're going to do something a little different this time. I want you to imagine for a moment that you have an energy field around your body, which you do, even if you can't see it. And right now, that energy field has a certain quality to it, based on what frequency you've been operating on. I want you to imagine that any density, any heaviness, any contraction in that field is just old frequency data. It's scarcity programming. It's been there for so long you thought it was part of you, but it's not. It's just old data, and you can release it. Take a breath in, and as you breathe in, imagine you're breathing in light, pure potential, abundance frequency. And as you breathe out, imagine you're releasing the old density, breathing in expansion, breathing out contraction. Do this a few times at your own pace. And as you do, feel your energy field starting to lighten, to brighten, to expand outward. You're not forcing anything. You're just allowing what wants to shift. And then, when you're ready, bring to mind something you're genuinely grateful for in your life right now. Something that, when you think about it, makes you feel lucky. Hold that feeling of gratitude in your chest and let it radiate outward into your energy field. You're tuning to abundance frequency right now, in this moment. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. When you're ready, take one more deep breath and come back to the sound of my voice. Now let's talk about the shift that changes everything in terms of how money actually flows to you. Value creation versus value extraction. This is where magnetic wealth moves from concept to practical application. Most people approach making money from an extraction mindset without realizing it. They're trying to get money from other people. They're trying to extract value. They're thinking, how can I convince someone to give me their money? What do I need to do or say to get them to buy? How can I position myself to extract the maximum amount from each transaction? And there's nothing morally wrong with this approach, but it's operating at scarcity. The magnetic approach is completely different. It's based on value creation. Instead of asking how can I get money from people, you ask how can I create so much value for people that they're thrilled to pay me. Instead of trying to extract, you focus on generating value so compelling that money becomes the natural byproduct. When you shift into value creation mode, everything changes. You stop thinking about yourself and your needs and start thinking about other people and their problems. You stop trying to sell and start trying to solve. You stop positioning and start serving. And paradoxically, the less you focus on getting the money and the more you focus on creating genuine value, the more money comes to you because you've become magnetic to it. People want to pay you. They want to refer you. They want to work with you again. You're not extracting value from them. You're generating it for them. That's a completely different energy, and it produces completely different results. Here's the key question that shifts you from extraction to creation. What problem am I solving that people are desperate to fix? Not what can I sell? Not what am I good at? What problem am I solving that's so painful for people that they'll pay well to have it resolved? This is how value creators think. They're not focused on themselves. They're focused on the problem. They're obsessed with understanding it, feeling it, solving it in a way that's better than any other solution available. And when you solve a real problem in a remarkable way, you don't have to chase money. Money chases you. People hunt you down. They beg you to take their money because you're offering something they genuinely need, and they're grateful to have found you. That's magnetic wealth. That's what it looks like when you become someone money flows toward. Most people never take the time to deeply understand the problems they're solving. They just offer a service or product and hope people buy it. But magnetic wealth requires you to go deeper. Who exactly are you serving? What keeps them up at night? What have they already tried that didn't work? What would change in their life if this problem was solved? What's it costing them to leave it unsolved? When you can answer those questions with specificity and empathy, you can create value that feels like magic to the person receiving it. And that's when money stops being something you chase and becomes something that flows to you as a natural consequence of the value you're creating. Think about the people you've paid premium prices to without hesitation. Why did you do it? Because they solved a real problem for you in a way that felt effortless. They understood what you needed, maybe even before you fully understood it yourself. They delivered results. They made your life better. And paying them felt good because you got more value than what you paid. That's the standard you're aiming for. Not to extract the maximum price you can get away with, but to deliver so much value that people feel like they're getting a bargain even when they're paying you well. When you operate at that level, you never have to worry about money again. Because you've become a value creation machine, and value creation is infinitely abundant. You're not competing for a fixed pool of money. You're generating new value, which generates new money. There's no ceiling. There's no scarcity. There's just your capacity to identify problems and solve them in remarkable ways. Now let's talk about something most people struggle with even more than creating value, receiving it. This is where so many people sabotage their magnetic wealth journey without even realizing it. They do the inner work. They shift their frequency. They create genuine value. And then, when money or opportunities try to flow to them, they block it. They deflect compliments. They undercharge. They overdeliver to the point of resentment. They feel guilty when they're paid well. They unconsciously create situations that prevent them from receiving the very thing they've been trying to attract. This is the lost art of receiving, and it's absolutely critical to magnetic wealth, because you can be the most magnetic person in the world, but if you can't receive, the magnetism is irrelevant. It's like being a radio tower that broadcasts perfectly, but has no receiver to pick up the signal that comes back. Why do people struggle to receive? Usually it comes down to worthiness. Somewhere deep in your system, you don't believe you deserve to receive without suffering for it first. You don't believe you're allowed to have it be easy. You don't believe you're worthy of abundance without proving yourself through sacrifice and struggle. These beliefs are usually unconscious, which is why they're so powerful. You don't think you have a receiving block. You just notice that money comes in and then immediately goes out. You notice that opportunities fall through at the last minute. You notice that you're exhausted from overworking and still not getting ahead. And you think that's just how it is. But it's not. It's your receiving block showing up in your results. Here's how receiving blocks manifest in real life. You finish a project for a client and they rave about the results. They tell you it was worth 10 times what they paid you. And instead of saying thank you and allowing yourself to receive that appreciation fully, you deflect. Oh, it was nothing. I'm just glad I could help. I probably could have done better on the second section. You've just blocked the receiving. Someone offers to connect you with a high-value contact who could change your business. And instead of saying yes with enthusiasm, you hesitate. You think you're not quite ready. You convince yourself you should wait until you have your website redesigned or your offer more dialed in. You've just blocked the receiving. Money comes in from an unexpected source. A bonus, a refund, a gift. And instead of celebrating it and allowing yourself to enjoy it, your first thought is about what bill you need to pay with it. Or worse, you feel suspicious about it. What's the catch? Why did this happen? Is something bad about to happen to balance it out? You've just blocked the receiving. Someone compliments your work, and you immediately point out its flaws. Someone offers to pay you up front, and you insist on breaking it into smaller payments so they don't have to take the risk. Someone thanks you for your generosity, and you say it was no big deal. Every single one of these moments is a receiving block, and every receiving block reinforces your scarcity frequency and pushes money away. Learning to receive is a practice, just like learning to create value, and it starts with awareness. For the next week, I want you to notice every time someone offers you something, whether it's a compliment, an opportunity, money, appreciation, help, or connection, and I want you to notice what you do with it. Do you receive it fully with gratitude and openness? Or do you deflect it, minimize it, qualify it, or reject it? Most people are shocked when they start tracking this, because they realize they're blocking receiving dozens of times a day without even knowing it. Once you see the pattern, you can start to shift it. The practice is simple, but it's not easy. When someone offers you something, anything, pause before you respond. Feel the urge to deflect or minimize. Don't act on it. Instead, breathe into your chest, open your receiving channel, and simply say, thank you. That's it. No qualifiers, no justifications, no deflections. Just thank you. Receive the compliment. Receive the offer. Receive the money. Receive the appreciation. Let it land. Let yourself have it. Let yourself be worthy of it without needing to earn it through suffering first. This might feel vulnerable. It might feel uncomfortable. It might bring up guilt or fear. Good. That discomfort is showing you exactly where your growth is. Push through it. Keep practicing. Because every time you receive fully, you're training yourself into magnetic wealth. You're proving to your subconscious that it's safe to have good things. You're proving to the universe that you're ready for more. You're becoming someone who can hold abundance without sabotaging it. And that changes everything. When you combine value creation with the capacity to receive, you become unstoppable. You're generating wealth through the problems you solve, and you're allowing that wealth to actually land in your life. You're not leaking it. You're not blocking it. You're becoming a clear channel for money to flow through. That's magnetic wealth in its fullest expression. Now let's talk about the practical system that keeps money flowing to you consistently. Because mindset and energy are foundational, but you also need structure. You need a minimum viable wealth system that works with your magnetism instead of against it. Most people approach money management from a scarcity place. They're trying to restrict, control, and squeeze every penny. They track every expense with anxiety. They beat themselves up for spending. They create elaborate budgets that feel like prison sentences. And then they wonder why money feels so heavy and stressful. Here's the truth. Managing money from scarcity frequency creates more scarcity. Managing money from abundance frequency creates more abundance. So we're going to set up a system that reinforces your magnetic wealth instead of undermining it. The minimum viable wealth system has 3 buckets, and each one serves a specific energetic purpose. The first bucket is your attraction account. This is where money lands first when it comes to you. Every payment, every deposit, every unexpected windfall goes here first. And here's the key. You celebrate every single deposit. You don't check this account with dread. You check it with excitement. You train yourself to expect good news. The third bucket is your growth account. This is where you accumulate wealth that compounds over time. This account grows without you needing to constantly manage it. It's your proof that you're moving from survival to overflow. Even if you can only put a small amount into this account right now, the practice of doing it shifts your identity. You're no longer someone who lives paycheck to paycheck. You're someone who builds wealth. You're someone who has reserves. You're someone who's moving toward financial freedom. The amount doesn't matter as much as the practice, because the practice is training you into the identity of someone who accumulates wealth, and that identity will eventually create the results that match it. Here's how this system reinforces magnetic wealth. First, you're separating the energies of receiving, circulating, and growing. Most people mix them all together in one account and then feel confused and anxious about money because they're conflating different energies. Second, you're creating positive associations with money at every stage. Money coming in is celebrated. Money going out is purposeful. Money growing is evidence of your progress. There's no stage where money feels bad or scary. Third, you're training yourself to trust the flow. You're proving to yourself over and over that money comes in, it circulates, it grows, and there's always more coming. That trust is what makes you magnetic. When you trust the flow, you stop gripping. When you stop gripping, you stop repelling. When you stop repelling, money flows to you naturally. Now let me show you what this looks like with a real person navigating a real situation. David had been a freelance writer for 3 years, and his relationship with money was chaotic. Sometimes he'd have a great month and feel rich. Other times he'd have a slow month and panic. He had one checking account where everything mixed together. Client payments, rent, groceries, subscriptions, random expenses. He never knew where he stood. He'd get paid and immediately feel stressed about what bills were due. Money felt like a source of constant anxiety, even when he was making decent income. When he implemented the 3-bucket system, everything shifted. The first month, a client payment hit his attraction account. Instead of immediately calculating what bills he could pay, he took 30 seconds to just appreciate it. He said out loud, "Thank you, more is coming." It felt silly at first, but he did it anyway. Then he moved the money to his circulation account and paid his bills with a sense of calm instead of urgency. He set aside a small amount for his growth account, even though part of him said he couldn't afford to. And something interesting happened over the next few months. Money started showing up more consistently. Not because his skill as a writer improved, not because he suddenly marketed himself better, but because his frequency shifted. He stopped approaching money with dread and started approaching it with expectation. Clients could feel the difference in his energy on calls. He was calmer, more confident, less desperate, and they wanted to work with him more. Referrals increased. Repeat business increased. Unexpected opportunities showed up. He was becoming magnetic, and the 3-bucket system was the structure that supported it. That's the power of managing money in alignment with magnetic wealth principles. You're not just tracking numbers. You're conditioning your nervous system. You're training your frequency. You're proving to yourself that you're the kind of person money flows to, and your external reality starts to match that internal shift. Now let's talk about how magnetic wealth shows up in relationships and networking, because this is where a lot of people unknowingly sabotage their magnetism. They do the inner work, they manage their money well, but then they show up in rooms and conversations with the same old desperate energy, and they wonder why opportunities don't materialize. Magnetic networking is completely different from traditional networking. Traditional networking is transactional. You go to events to get something, contacts, leads, opportunities. You're scanning the room for who can help you. You're pitching yourself to anyone who'll listen. You're collecting business cards and following up with generic emails. You're trying to extract value from the room, and everyone can feel it. They avoid you, or they're polite, but don't actually follow through. Because extraction energy repels connection. Magnetic networking is about becoming someone people want to connect with. It's about showing up as genuinely interested in others, not because you want something from them, but because you're operating from abundance and you're curious. It's about offering value first without keeping score. It's about building real relationships instead of transactional contacts. And here's what happens when you network magnetically. Opportunities come to you. People introduce you to others without you asking. Collaborations emerge organically. Money-making connections happen in unexpected conversations. You're not forcing anything. You're not chasing anyone. You're just being yourself at abundance frequency, and your magnetism pulls the right people and opportunities into your orbit. The key shift is moving from what can I get to how can I contribute. When you walk into a room, virtual or physical, asking yourself how you can add value to the conversations you have, you completely change your energy. You're not scanning for targets. You're genuinely listening. You're asking real questions. You're making connections between people. You're sharing resources without expecting anything back. And people remember you, not because you had the best pitch, but because you made them feel seen and valued. That's what creates the kind of relationships that generate wealth over time. Not everyone you meet will turn into a business opportunity, and that's fine. Because you're not networking to extract opportunities from everyone. You're networking to build a field of genuine connection, and opportunities arise naturally from that field when the timing is right. This requires patience. It requires trust. It requires you to believe that giving value without immediate return will create abundance in the long run. And it does, every single time. Here's what magnetic networking looks like in practice. You're at a conference, and you end up in a conversation with someone who's struggling with a problem you know how to solve. Old, you might have immediately pitched your services. Magnetic, you asks questions, genuinely tries to understand their situation, and offers a helpful insight or resource with no expectation of payment. Maybe they become a client later. Maybe they refer someone to you. Maybe they connect you with someone who changes your business. Or maybe nothing direct comes from it. But you've just reinforced your own abundance frequency by giving freely, and that frequency will attract abundance from another direction. You never know which conversation is going to be the one that shifts everything. So you show up fully in all of them, not with an agenda, but with genuine presence and generosity. That's what makes you magnetic. Let me ask you something, and really sit with this question. When you think about the wealthiest, most successful people you know or know of, are they constantly chasing opportunities? Or do opportunities seem to chase them? You already know the answer. They're the ones everyone wants to work with. Everyone wants to connect with. Everyone wants to learn from. They're not desperate. They're not pitching. They're just being themselves at a high frequency, and their magnetism pulls everything to them. You can become that person, not by faking confidence or pretending to be further along than you are, but by genuinely shifting into abundance frequency and staying there consistently. By becoming someone who creates value, receives fully, and connects authentically. When you do that, you don't need to network strategically. You just need to show up, and your magnetism does the rest. Now we need to talk about the concept that creates exponential results instead of linear ones. This is the 80-20 principle applied to magnetic wealth, and understanding this will save you years of spinning your wheels on activities that don't actually move the needle. Here's the reality. 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions. But most people spend 80% of their time on the activities that generate 20% of their results. They're busy, they're hustling, they're checking off tasks, and they're staying broke or barely getting by because they're majoring in minor things. Magnetic wealth requires you to identify your 20%, the activities that generate the most value, the most money, the most magnetism, and ruthlessly prioritize those while eliminating or delegating everything else. What are your 20% activities? They're the things that only you can do, that directly create value, that leverage your unique gifts, that put you in front of the right people, that generate income or opportunities. For most people, this includes creating your core offer, having high-value conversations with potential clients or partners, producing content that showcases your expertise and attracts your ideal audience, and building deep relationships with key connectors. Everything else, all the admin, the busy work, the tasks that feel productive but don't actually generate results, that's your 80%. And it's killing your magnetism because it's keeping you in low-frequency activity that doesn't move you toward wealth. When you're buried in 80% work, you don't have the energy or the time to show up powerfully in your 20%. Money resistance from others shows up in predictable ways. There are the concerned friends who suddenly worry that you're changing, that success is going to your head, that you're not the same person anymore. There are the family members who bring up every past failure and remind you not to get your hopes up. There are the acquaintances who make passive-aggressive comments about how nice it must be to have things come so easily, implying that you're lucky and they're not. There are the people who suddenly need your help with their problems, who want you to give them your time and energy and resources for free, because now that you have more, you should share it. And there are the people who just disappear, who stop inviting you to things, who pull away without explanation because your growth makes them uncomfortable with their own stagnation. This is normal. This is predictable. And this is one of the biggest tests of whether you're going to sustain your magnetic wealth or collapse back into scarcity. Because here's what's really happening. You're disrupting the system. Every social group, every family, every circle has an invisible agreement about what's possible, what's acceptable, what people like us do and don't do. And when you break that agreement by growing beyond the group's limits, the group unconsciously tries to bring you back into compliance. Not because they're bad people. Not because they don't love you, but because your growth threatens their identity and their worldview. If you can have magnetic wealth, what does that say about their struggle? If money can flow easily to you, why isn't it flowing to them? Your success becomes a mirror that reflects their own blocks and fears, and instead of looking at the reflection, they try to dim your light. You have to decide right now that you're not going to dim your light to make other people comfortable. You have to decide that you're going to keep growing even when people around you resist it. You have to decide that your magnetic wealth is more important than maintaining relationships with people who need you to stay small. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or you flaunt your success or you cut off everyone who questions you. It means you develop boundaries. It means you stop explaining and justifying yourself to people who aren't actually curious, they're just critical. It means you find new people who are also growing, who celebrate your wins instead of resenting them, who operate at the frequency you're moving toward instead of the frequency you're leaving behind. It means you love people from a distance if they can't support your growth up close. Here's what this looks like in practice. Your sibling makes a comment at a family dinner. Must be nice to have money for that. They say it with an edge. You have a choice in that moment. Old, you might have apologized, minimized your success, maybe even offered to pay for something for them to ease the tension. Magnetic, you recognizes it for what it is. Resistance. A reflection of their own scarcity frequency. And magnetic, you responds with calm, confident boundaries. I've worked hard on my relationship with money, and I'm grateful for where it's taken me. No apology, no justification, no taking responsibility for their discomfort. Just a simple acknowledgement and a boundary that says, I'm not going to shrink to make you comfortable. Sometimes that's enough and the person backs off. Sometimes they escalate and you have to decide whether the relationship can survive your growth. Either way, you're not dimming your light. You're not returning to scarcity frequency to maintain false peace. The people who are meant to stay in your life as you grow will rise up to meet you. They'll ask questions about what you're doing. They'll celebrate your wins. They'll be inspired by your transformation. The people who aren't meant to stay will resist, criticize, and eventually fall away. And that's okay. That's not failure. That's alignment. You're not losing relationships. You're shedding relationships that were built on a version of you that no longer exists. And you're making space for new relationships that match who you're becoming. This is part of the process. Don't let resistance stop you. Don't let other people's fear pull you back into scarcity. You've come too far. You've done too much work. Your magnetic wealth is on the other side of this discomfort. Keep going. Now let's talk about what happens as your magnetic wealth grows and you start moving from survival to overflow. Because this is where another layer of blocks can show up. Blocks around your capacity to hold wealth. Most people have a financial set point, an unconscious limit on how much they're comfortable having. It was installed early, usually based on how much your family had or how much the people around you had. And when you start to exceed that set point, your nervous system freaks out. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel like you. and you unconsciously sabotage yourself back down to the familiar range. This is why lottery winners often end up broke. Why people who have a huge income year often have a terrible year right after. Why you might notice that whenever you get ahead financially, something happens to bring you back down. It's not bad luck. It's your capacity limit being reached and your system correcting back to what feels normal. Scaling your magnetism means expanding your capacity to hold wealth without sabotaging it. It means stretching your nervous system's comfort zone gradually so you can sustain higher levels of abundance. This isn't just mindset work. This is somatic work, body-based work, because your nervous system lives in your body, not in your thoughts. You have to teach your body that it's safe to have more. That overflow is your new normal. That wealth doesn't mean loss or danger or betrayal of your roots. Here's how you do it. You practice receiving in small doses. Every time you get a compliment, really let it in. Every time you get paid, really celebrate it. Every time something good happens, resist the urge to brace for the other shoe to drop. You're conditioning your nervous system to associate good things with safety instead of danger. You practice holding discomfort. When you have more money in your account than usual and you feel weird about it, don't immediately spend it to get back to comfortable. Sit with the discomfort. Breathe through it. Remind yourself that this is your new normal. The discomfort is just your old set point being challenged. It will pass. You practice gratitude for overflow. When you have more than you need, instead of feeling guilty or weird, you actively appreciate it. You let yourself enjoy it. You prove to yourself that overflow is good, that it's safe, that you're allowed to have it, and you practice giving from overflow. One of the fastest ways to expand your capacity is to become someone who gives generously when you have abundance. Not from obligation or guilt, but from genuine overflow. When you give from that place, you're proving to yourself that you have more than enough. You're embodying wealth, and your identity shifts to match. Over time, your set point rises. What used to feel like a lot starts to feel normal. What used to feel impossible starts to feel inevitable. And your external reality rises to match your new internal capacity. This is how you move from temporary wins to sustainable wealth. This is how you go from having a good month to having a good year to having a good life. You expand your capacity to hold it. You make wealth your new normal, not something you visit occasionally before crashing back to scarcity. Let me close this section with a visualization that you can return to anytime you need to expand your capacity. If you're in a place where you can close your eyes safely, do that now. If not, just soften your gaze and let your awareness turn inward. Take a deep breath and imagine that you have a container inside your chest, right where your heart is. This container represents your capacity to hold wealth, love, success, all good things. Right now, that container is a certain size based on your history and your conditioning. I want you to see it clearly. What size is it? Is it small like a cup, medium like a bowl, or large like a basin? Just notice without judgment. Now, I want you to imagine that this container is made of something flexible. It can expand. And as you breathe in deeply, imagine the container expanding slightly, the wall stretching, the capacity increasing. You're not forcing it. You're just allowing it to grow. Breathe in and the container expands. Breathe out and it settles into its new size. Do this several times. With each breath, the container grows a little more. You're expanding your capacity to receive, to hold, to sustain wealth. And as the container grows, imagine golden light filling it. This is abundance energy. It's flowing in from the universe, from all the wealth that's already trying to reach you. And now your container is big enough to hold it. You're no longer overflowing and spilling it out through sabotage. You're holding it. You're keeping it. It's yours. Take one more deep breath, feeling the fullness of your expanded capacity, and when you're ready, open your eyes and come back. Do this visualization regularly, especially when you notice yourself hitting an upper limit or sabotaging your growth. It works. Your nervous system responds to visualization as if it's real experience, and you can literally reprogram your capacity through this practice. Now, let's bring all of this together into a practical 30-day protocol that you can start implementing immediately. Because everything we've covered is useless if you don't actually apply it. And the way you apply it is through consistent daily practice that rewires your frequency and builds your magnetism. This isn't complicated, but it does require commitment. Days 1 through 7 are about awareness and foundation. Every morning, before you check your phone or get into your to-do list, you're going to sit quietly for 5 minutes and do the gratitude frequency practice. Think of 3 specific things you're genuinely grateful for and really feel the gratitude in your body. This sets your frequency for the day. Then, you're going to say your identity declaration out loud. I am someone money flows to naturally and easily. I create immense value, and people love to pay me. I am worthy of wealth without needing to prove it. Say it even if you don't believe it yet. You're installing new programming. Throughout the day, notice when you drop into scarcity frequency, tightness, fear, grasping, and practice the breath work to shift back to abundance. Just noticing the pattern this first week is huge. At night before bed, write down any evidence of money or opportunities that showed up that day, even tiny things. You're training your brain to look for abundance instead of scarcity. Days 8 through 14 are about value creation and receiving. In addition to your morning and evening practices, you're going to spend 20 minutes each day focused on value creation. Answer the question, what problem can I solve today that will genuinely help someone? Then do something about it. Create content. Reach out to someone who's struggling with something you can help with. Refine your offer. Focus on creating value without worrying about immediate return. And every single day this week, practice receiving. When someone compliments you, just say thank you. When someone offers to help you, say yes. When you get paid, celebrate it out loud. You're opening your receiving channels. This is also the week you implement the 3-bucket money system if you haven't already. Set up your attraction account, circulation account, and growth account. Move money between them consciously. Feel the difference in energy between receiving, circulating, and growing. Days 15 through 21 are about networking and leveraging your 20%. Continue your morning and evening practices, they're non-negotiable. But this week, you're going to have at least 3 conversations with people in your field or adjacent to it. Not transactional pitches. Genuine conversations where you ask questions, listen, and offer value. Practice magnetic networking. Also this week, you're doing your 80-20 audit. List everything you do, identify what's 20% and what's 80%, and take action to eliminate, automate, or delegate at least 3 80% activities. Free up your time and energy for what actually creates magnetism. You should start to notice by this point that your frequency is more stable. You're not swinging as wildly between scarcity and abundance. You're catching yourself faster and choosing abundance more consistently. Days 22 through 30 are about expansion and integration. Your practices continue, but this week you're also going to practice handling resistance. If someone makes a comment about your changes or your growth, practice responding with boundaries instead of shrinking. If you notice yourself hitting a capacity limit, feeling weird about having more money or more opportunities, do the capacity expansion visualization. And this week, give from overflow. Find a way to be generous that feels good to you. Maybe it's buying someone's coffee. Maybe it's sharing a resource. Maybe it's making a donation. Practice being someone who gives from abundance, not from obligation. By day 30, check in with yourself. What's different? What evidence do you have that your frequency has shifted? What money or opportunities have shown up that you didn't force? Journal about it. Celebrate it. And then commit to continuing the practices. Because magnetic wealth isn't a 30-day event. It's a lifetime practice. But these 30 days will prove to you that it works. And that proof will fuel your commitment to keep going. Now let me paint a picture of who you're becoming through this process. 30 days from now, if you actually do this work, here's what will be different. You'll wake up in the morning and your first thought won't be dread about money. It'll be curiosity about what good things might show up today. You'll check your bank account with expectation instead of fear, and you'll have received at least one payment, opportunity, or windfall that you didn't orchestrate through force. Maybe a client will reach out to you instead of you having to chase them. Maybe someone will refer you without being asked. Maybe a refund will show up that you'd forgotten about. Maybe an opportunity will land in your inbox. It won't be huge necessarily, but it'll be evidence that your magnetism is working. That money is starting to flow to you instead of away from you. You'll notice that people treat you differently in conversations. They'll lean in more. They'll ask for your opinion. They'll want to connect you with other people. You won't be able to quite articulate what's changed, but you'll feel it. They're responding to your frequency, to your energy, to your magnetism. You've stopped being the person who needs something from everyone and become the person who adds value to every interaction. And that shift makes you magnetic to opportunities. You'll feel relaxed about money for the first time in years, maybe ever. Not because all your problems are solved. Not because you have $1 million in the bank, but because you trust now. You trust that money flows to you. You trust that you can create value and people will pay you. You trust that the universe is abundant and you're part of that abundance. That trust changes everything. It changes how you sleep, how you make decisions, how you show up in the world. You're no longer running on anxiety and desperation. You're running on trust and expectation. That's a completely different frequency, and it attracts completely different results. And you'll understand in your bones, not just in your head, that wealth isn't something you chase. It's something you become. The wealthiest people you know aren't working harder than you. They're not smarter than you. They're not luckier than you. They're just operating at a different frequency. They've become magnetic to wealth. And now you know how to do the same. You've removed the blocks. You've installed new beliefs. You've practiced new behaviors. You've rewired your relationship with money. And now money responds to you differently. This is your new reality. Not someday. Not when conditions are perfect. Now. Starting today, if you're willing to commit to the work. Here's the final piece I need you to understand. Magnetic wealth isn't about getting rich quick. It's not a hack or a shortcut. It's a fundamental transformation of who you are in relationship to money, and that transformation continues to deepen over time. The practices in this program aren't things you do once and then you're done. They're practices you integrate into your life permanently, because magnetic wealth is a frequency you maintain, not a destination you reach. Some days you'll be solidly in abundance frequency. Some days you'll slip back into scarcity. That's normal. That's human. The difference is that now you know how to catch yourself and shift back. Now you have the tools. Now you understand the principles. Now you know what's possible. So here's my invitation to you. Your invitation to overflow. Commit to these 30 days. Actually do the practices, not just intellectually understand them. And watch what happens. Watch how your relationship with money shifts. Watch how opportunities start appearing. Watch how your nervous system calms down. Watch how you start to embody the person who has magnetic wealth instead of just wanting to be that person. The universe is conspicuously abundant. Money is just energy, and you can become a conductor for that energy. You can become someone it flows to naturally, easily, consistently. Not because you're special, not because you have privileges others don't have, but because you've removed the blocks, shifted your frequency, and become magnetic. That's available to you right now. Not someday. Right now, the wealthy don't work harder. They remove the blocks and become conductors for money flow. They operate at a frequency that attracts instead of repels. They embody magnetic wealth instead of chasing it. And you can do the same. You have everything you need. The knowledge is yours. The practices are yours. The only question left is, are you willing to become the person who has magnetic wealth? Are you willing to do the work, even when it's uncomfortable? Are you willing to trust the process before you see dramatic proof? Are you willing to keep going even when people around you resist your growth? Because if you are, your financial reality is about to change. Not through force, not through grind, through magnetism, through becoming the person money flows to. Welcome to your new financial reality, the one where money chases you. Welcome to magnetic wealth. Now go become it. But before you close this and move on with your day, I want to leave you with one final practice that ties everything together. This is the practice that will ensure all of this actually integrates into your life, instead of becoming another book you listened to and forgot about. It's simple, but it's powerful. Every single day for the rest of your life, I want you to ask yourself one question. What frequency am I operating at right now? That's it. Just pause, check in, and notice. Am I in scarcity frequency or abundance frequency? Am I gripping or flowing? Am I afraid or trusting? Am I extracting or creating value? Am I blocking receiving or allowing it? You don't need to judge yourself for whatever you find. Just notice, because awareness is the first step to transformation. Some of you listening are already thinking about all the reasons this won't work for you. Your situation is different. Your industry is different. You have obstacles other people don't have. And maybe that's true. But let me ask you this, has that story served you so far? Has believing that you're the exception, that magnetic wealth works for others but not for you, has that belief created the financial reality you want? Or has it kept you exactly where you are? Because here's the truth. The only thing standing between you and magnetic wealth is your willingness to release the story that says you can't have it. Every single person who's broken through to wealth, regardless of their starting point, regardless of their circumstances, had to release that story at some point. They had to stop defending their limitations and start claiming their possibility. You can do the same. Right now, today, this moment. Think about Sarah from the opening story. 3 months before that Tuesday morning when she found the unexpected money in her account, she was you. She was listening to something like this, skeptical, hopeful, wondering if it could really work. She had the same doubts, the same fears, the same story about why her situation was different. But she decided to try anyway. She committed to the practices. She shifted her frequency. She became magnetic. And money started flowing to her in ways she couldn't have orchestrated. You have that same opportunity right now. The question is, will you take it? Will you release the skepticism just long enough to try? Will you commit to 30 days of practices and see what happens? Or will you stay in the story that keeps you stuck? I can't make that choice for you. No one can. This is your moment, your decision, your life. But I can tell you this. On the other side of that decision, on the other side of 30 days of committed practice, is a version of you that you're going to love. A version that wakes up excited about the day. A version that trusts instead of fears. A version that creates value effortlessly. A version that receives without guilt. A version that has money flowing to them naturally. That version is waiting for you. But you have to become them. You have to choose them. You have to do the work to integrate them. And it starts today, right now, with the next decision you make. So let me give you your first decision point. When this ends, you're going to have a choice. You can go back to your normal life, your normal patterns, your normal relationship with money, and you'll get your normal results. Or you can implement one practice immediately. Just one. The morning gratitude frequency practice. The identity declaration. The 3-bucket system. The receiving practice. Pick one thing from everything you've heard and do it today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. Because that one action sends a signal to your subconscious that you're serious. That you're not just consuming information, you're transforming. That you're becoming magnetic. And that signal starts to shift your reality immediately. Here's what I know about the people who succeed with this work versus the people who don't. It's not intelligence. It's not circumstances. It's not luck. It's willingness. Willingness to feel uncomfortable. Willingness to try something new. Willingness to trust before they see proof. Willingness to keep going when results don't show up immediately. Willingness to become someone different than who they've been. That's the only variable that matters. Are you willing? Because if you're genuinely willing to commit to this transformation, magnetic wealth is inevitable. Not because I'm promising you some magical result, but because when you shift your frequency, when you remove your blocks, when you become someone who creates value and receives fully, money has no choice but to flow to you. That's not manifesting. That's physics. Let me share one more story before we close, and this one is about you. Not the you listening right now, but the you 6 months from now. The you who actually did the work. Let me tell you about them. 6 months from now, you're going to be sitting somewhere, maybe the same place you're sitting now, and you're going to have a moment of recognition, a moment where you realize that your entire relationship with money has transformed. You'll remember what it used to feel like to check your bank account with dread, but that feeling will be so foreign to you now that you'll almost laugh. Because now, you check your account with curiosity and gratitude. You'll remember what it used to feel like to chase opportunities, to feel desperate in sales conversations, to undercharge out of fear. But that version of you will feel like a different person. Because now opportunities come to you. Conversations flow naturally. You charge what you're worth without apology. You'll look at your bank account and see numbers that 6 months ago you would have thought were impossible. Not because you won the lottery or found some secret strategy, but because you became magnetic. You removed the blocks. You shifted the frequency. You did the work. And money responded. And in that moment, 6 months from now, you're going to feel something profound. Gratitude. Not just for the money, though, that's nice. But gratitude for the version of you that made the decision to change. Gratitude for the you listening right now who chose to commit. Because that you, the one listening now, is the one who made all of this possible. The you 6 months from now exists because the you right now decided to become them. That's how powerful this moment is. This isn't just about learning some techniques. This is a fork in the road. One path leads to the same financial reality you've always had. The other path leads to magnetic wealth. And you get to choose. Right now, which path will you take? I want to acknowledge something before we finish. This work can bring up deep emotions. As you start to remove the blocks around money, as you examine your money story, as you claim worthiness you haven't felt before, old pain might surface. Grief about what you didn't have growing up. Anger about the beliefs you absorbed. Sadness about the years you spent in scarcity when abundance was always available. If that happens, let it. Don't push the emotions away. Don't judge yourself for having them. Emotions are just energy moving through you, and they need to move in order for you to transform. Cry if you need to cry. Rage if you need to rage. Grieve if you need to grieve. And then when the wave passes, come back to the practices. Come back to the frequency. Come back to becoming magnetic. This is part of the process. The part nobody talks about. The messy, human, emotional part. But it's also the part that creates the deepest transformation. So if it comes up for you, know that you're not broken. You're healing. And on the other side of that healing is the magnetic wealth you're moving toward. I also want to speak to those of you who are already doing well financially, but know you could be doing better. Maybe you're making six figures, but it still feels hard. Maybe you have money, but you're exhausted from the constant grinding. Maybe you're financially comfortable, but there's no overflow, no ease, no sense of true abundance. This work is for you too, because magnetic wealth isn't just about making more money. It's about making money feel good. It's about having financial success and also having energy, joy, freedom, and peace. You can have both. In fact, you should have both. The old paradigm says you have to sacrifice your well-being for wealth. The magnetic wealth paradigm says your well-being creates your wealth. When you're at abundance frequency, when you're in your zone of genius, when you're creating value from overflow instead of depletion, you make more money with less effort, and it feels completely different. So if you're already successful but exhausted, your work is to release the grinding and step into magnetic wealth, to trust that you can have ease and abundance simultaneously, to stop proving your worth through suffering and start embodying your worth through alignment. It might feel scary at first. You might worry that if you stop grinding, everything will fall apart. But I promise you the opposite happens. When you shift from grinding to magnetism, your results improve. Your income increases. Your opportunities multiply. Because you're finally working with the natural laws of abundance instead of against them. You don't need to work harder. You need to become more magnetic. And that starts with releasing the belief that struggle equals worth. Now, let's talk about what happens when you actually start seeing results. Because this is important. When money starts flowing to you in new ways, when opportunities start appearing, when your magnetism becomes visible, you're going to be tempted to grip it, to go back into scarcity mode out of fear of losing it, to start controlling and forcing again, because finally you have something to protect. Resist that temptation. The moment you grip, you shift back into scarcity frequency, and scarcity frequency stops the flow. The magnetic wealth move is to stay in abundance frequency even as abundance increases, to remain open, trusting, and flowing even when the stakes feel higher. To keep giving from overflow even as you accumulate more. To keep receiving without guilt even as you have more to receive. That's how you sustain wealth instead of cycling in and out of it. Think of it this way. Magnetic wealth is like a river. When you're in abundance frequency, you're positioned in the river and money flows to you naturally. The current brings it. You don't have to force it. But the moment you try to dam up the river, the moment you grip and control and stop the flow out of fear, the current stops bringing new water. You're holding on to what you have. Let me give you a specific example of what this looks like. You have your best income month ever. You would immediately start worrying about what happens next month. You'd grip onto that money. You'd be afraid to spend any of it. You'd start micromanaging everything to try to recreate the result. And in doing so, you'd shift into scarcity frequency and actually make it harder for the next month to be good. Magnetic You celebrates the great month. You feel genuine gratitude. You move money into your 3 buckets with intention. You give generously from your overflow. You invest in something that will support your growth. And then you return to your practices, staying in abundance frequency, trusting that what came once will come again, because you're magnetic to it. You're not gripping. You're not controlling. You're flowing. And that flow creates the conditions for more to arrive. This is the practice that separates temporary success from sustainable wealth. Anyone can have a good month, but sustaining wealth, having consistent flow, having abundance as your baseline instead of your exception, that requires you to stay magnetic even as your circumstances change. It requires you to choose abundance frequency in every situation. When things are great and when things are challenging, when money is flowing and when it seems to slow down, when opportunities are abundant and when they seem scarce. Your job is to stay magnetic, to trust the process, to do the practices, to keep your frequency high, and to let the results unfold in their own timing. Because here's something crucial to understand. Magnetic wealth doesn't always look like a straight line upward. Sometimes you'll have a great week followed by a quiet week. Sometimes you'll have a burst of opportunities followed by a period of integration. Sometimes money will come in ways you expected and sometimes in ways that surprise you. The key is to not interpret the natural rhythms as failure, to not collapse back into scarcity every time there's a pause in the action. Nature has rhythms, seasons, cycles. Your wealth journey will have rhythms too. And that's not just okay, it's optimal, because the pauses give you time to integrate, to expand your capacity, to prepare for the next level. Trust the rhythm. Stay magnetic. Keep doing the practices, and watch what unfolds over time. Now I want to address something that might be coming up for some of you. What if I do all of this and it doesn't work? What if I commit to 30 days, do all the practices, shift my frequency, and nothing changes? First of all, something will change. Maybe not in the dramatic way you're hoping for in the timeline you want, but something will shift. You'll notice yourself responding differently in conversations. You'll catch yourself in scarcity frequency faster. You'll feel more at peace with money even if your bank account hasn't dramatically increased yet. Those shifts matter. They're evidence that the transformation is happening. Don't dismiss them just because they're not the final result yet. Second, if you genuinely do the practices and you don't see any external evidence after 30 days, the question to ask isn't, did this work? The question is, where am I still blocking? Because magnetic wealth is a natural law. When you remove the blocks and shift the frequency, money flows. If it's not flowing, there's still a block. Maybe it's a deeper worthiness issue than you realized. Maybe it's a receiving block that's more entrenched than you thought. Maybe it's a value creation issue where you're not actually solving problems people are willing to pay for. Maybe it's a capacity issue where you're hitting your upper limit faster than you expected. The work is to identify the block and address it, not to decide the whole framework doesn't work. Third, and this is important, magnetic wealth doesn't mean you never have to take action. It doesn't mean you sit on your couch visualizing and money appears. Magnetic wealth means you take inspired action from abundance frequency instead of desperate action from scarcity frequency. You still have to show up. You still have to create value. You still have to have conversations. You still have to build your business or excel in your career. The difference is the energy you bring to those actions, and the energy determines the results. So if you're doing the frequency work but not taking any action in the physical world, that's the block. You need both. The inner work creates the magnetism. The outer work creates the channels for the magnetism to flow through. You can't skip either piece. Let me paint one more picture for you, and this one is about legacy. Because magnetic wealth isn't just about you. When you transform your relationship with money, when you break the patterns of scarcity and struggle that have been passed down through generations, you don't just change your life. You change the lives of everyone who comes after you. Your children will grow up with a completely different money story than you had. They'll watch you operate from abundance instead of scarcity. They'll absorb the belief that money flows easily, that wealth is available, that creating value and receiving is natural. They won't have to unlearn all the scarcity programming you had to unlearn because you'll have broken the cycle. Your friends will be impacted by the transformation they see in you. Some will be inspired to do their own work. Some will benefit from your generosity and your overflow. Some will see what's possible and choose to become magnetic themselves. Your community will be different because you're operating at a different frequency. You'll attract different people, create different opportunities, contribute in different ways. The ripple effect of your transformation extends far beyond what you can see. This is what's at stake when you decide whether or not to commit to this work. It's not just about whether you have more money in your account, though that matters. It's about who you become, what you model, what you make possible for others, the legacy you create. So when you're tempted to stay in your comfortable scarcity patterns because transformation feels hard, remember this. Your decision affects more than just you, and the version of you that does this work, that becomes magnetic to wealth, that breaks the generational patterns, that version creates a legacy that ripples out for decades. That's worth the discomfort. That's worth the commitment. That's worth choosing differently starting today. We're coming to the end of our time together, and I want to make sure you leave with absolute clarity on what to do next. Because information without implementation is just entertainment. And you didn't come here to be entertained. You came here to transform. So here's your implementation roadmap. Step 1, right now, before you do anything else, decide. Decide that you're committing to 30 days of magnetic wealth practices. Not maybe. Not I'll try. Decide. Make the commitment to yourself. Write it down if that helps. Tell someone if that makes it more real. But decide. Step 2, set up your structure. Create your 3-bucket money system today. Write your identity declaration and record it on your phone so you can listen to it. Put reminders in your calendar for your morning and evening practices. Set yourself up for success by creating the structure that will support you. Step 3, start tomorrow with day 1. Do the morning gratitude practice. Say your identity declaration. Notice your frequency throughout the day. Write down evidence at night. Just start. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait until you feel ready. Start messy. Start imperfect. Just start. Step 4, find support. Whether it's a friend who's also doing this work, an online community, a coach, or just a journal where you process your experiences, create some form of support structure. This work brings stuff up, and having a place to process it makes all the difference. You don't have to do this alone. Step Step 5. Stay committed through the resistance. There will be days you don't want to do the practices. Days you feel like nothing is working. Days you're tempted to quit. Those are the days that matter most. Those are the days where your commitment gets tested and your transformation gets forged. Show up anyway. Do the practices anyway. Choose abundance frequency anyway. That's what creates the breakthrough. And step 6, track your evidence. Keep a running list of every unexpected deposit, every opportunity that shows up, every conversation that goes better than expected, every moment where you notice yourself in abundance frequency. Because evidence builds belief, and belief strengthens magnetism. You need to see what's working to keep going. So track it, celebrate it, let it fuel your continued commitment. That's it. 6 steps. Decide, set up structure, start, find support, stay committed, track evidence. You can do this. You have everything you need. The only question is, will you? Will you actually implement? Will you commit to the 30 days? Will you do the practices even when they feel silly or uncomfortable? Will you choose differently than you've been choosing? Because that's where the magic happens. Not in understanding the concepts, in implementing them, in becoming them, in living them until they become your new normal. So let me ask you one final time. What do you want? Do you want to keep living in scarcity, chasing money, feeling anxious and depleted? Or do you want to step into magnetic wealth, attracting money, feeling abundant and at ease? Do you want to keep repeating the same patterns that have kept you stuck? Or do you want to break those patterns and create something completely new? Do you want to stay comfortable in your familiar struggle? Or do you want to risk the discomfort of transformation for the possibility of overflow? The choice is yours. It's always been yours. The only difference now is that you know what's possible. You know the path. You have the practices. And you get to choose whether you walk it or not. I'm going to trust that you're going to choose transformation. I'm going to trust that you're going to commit to the 30 days. I'm going to trust that 6 months from now, you're going to be living in such a different financial reality that you'll barely remember what the old one felt like. I'm going to trust that you're going to become magnetic, not because you're special, but because you're willing. And willingness is everything. So go, start, become. The version of you with magnetic wealth is waiting. They've been waiting for you to choose them, to claim them, to become them. Today is the day you do. Today is the day everything changes. Not because your circumstances magically shift, but because you do. And when you change, everything else follows. This is your moment, your invitation, your opportunity. Take it. Choose magnetic wealth. Choose abundance frequency. Choose to become the person money flows to. And then watch as your entire world transforms to match who you've become. You've got this. I believe in you. Now go believe in yourself. Go do the work. Go become magnetic. Welcome to your new wealth reality. It starts now.